Welcome to Pop Culture Retro, which was recently voted the 15th best podcast by the residents of the Golden Years Retirement Community in Boca Raton, Florida. Each show, we'll revisit some of your favorite pop culture memories with insider and outsider perspectives. Now, please help me welcome your hosts, Ike Eisenmann and Jonathan Rosen.
Hello, and welcome to another edition of Pop Culture Retro. I'm one of your hosts, Jonathan Rosen, along with Ike Eisenmann, and today we are thrilled to welcome the drummer for the most popular all-female rock band of all time, the Go-Gos, the author of the fantastic book, Made in Hollywood, All Access with the Go-Gos, and also a member of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Please help us welcome Gina Schock. Gina, thanks so much for joining us today. The volume cut out. Now there you are. Okay.
I was going to. What am I doing next? Oh, I'm working on another. Okay. Oh well, that's
well. To start, we have to start with. I've been reading through your not a memoir, and I say that because I've heard you say vociferously that it's not a memoir, but more of a book with pictures with accompanying stories, and the stories are great. But you're right. The incredible aspect to me is that you really did take pictures of everything. Like just times when nobody else would think to capture the moment, you took a picture, and it gives a fascinating look to behind the scenes of the band. So what age do you remember starting that with wanting to take pictures of everything?
Well, I mean, I always was drawn to photography. I mean, even when I was a kid, I always had an Instamatic, and every concert I went to, I brought my Instamatic and would take photos that would turn out so shitty because I'd be like 50 rows back trying to, it would be a stage, that kind of a thing. But I got better at that. Actually, I have some great Instamatic photos from when I was a kid of like people that played at the Baltimore Civic Center, because that's where I would go. I'm from Baltimore. I'd take the bus to the Civic Center and see whatever show was there. And I learned from these groupies because I was a kid. I don't know how I met them, probably just hanging around the stage after the concert, asking for a drumstick or a pick or anything, I mean, I could not get enough of it, I was there from before the concert started till the bitter end and then some. So I met these girls and I was like, yeah, we want to meet him. I want to meet him. I bring my friend Bruce with me. I drag him along. And the bands that stayed at the Baltimore Civic Center always would stay across the street at the Holiday Inn. Okay. Catty corner to where the Civic Center was. It still is there. Now it's some other name. And the trick was you'd go, because you couldn't go through the front door because they'd have guys there saying, no, you can't come in, blah, 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 blah. So you go through the service elevator. You go around the back and down through the parking lot and go up in the service elevator and go pick out any floor, get on the phone and always ask for, I know I'm giving this away, I say this, but you'd ask for the drummer or the bass player, because those were the two members of the band that would usually give their real name. Start there. And they'd say, I'd say, can you connect me with it? They'd say, you dial 9544. Well, 544, the last three digits was the room number. So I'd go rap on their door and they'd answer the door and like look at me like, what the fuck? And 9 out of 10 times they were, yes, fine. And a lot of times like really were so, they thought it was so ridiculous. Like they would let me come in the room and like somebody else in the band would be laying in bed with covers over their heads. And, I what they must have thought of this kid coming up and rapping the audacity to rap on their door when they're in their hotel room. When I think of it now, somebody raps on my door, I don't know, I want to kick him in the face, but but kid, you just, it's all possible. And, I had a lot of nerve. And so
Man.
I would do that. So that started, and then I started getting with my Instamatic, getting footage. I still have, you guys. That's why I really need to do another book. I have photographs with me with Rod Stewart and Alice Cooper or Jay Giles band. I don't know, a bunch of them. So first the Instamatic, then by the time, well, that's a long story, but Instamatic is what I was using till I moved to California.
Mm. Well, I mean,
My trip driving cross country with the Instamatic, which are in the book.
yeah. Well, clearly you were absolutely in love with music from a young age. Were you always musically inclined since you were a
Man.
child?
You know, I from as in the book, from my first concert, Led Zeppelin opener for the Who, I knew, you know, at the age of 11 that this is what I wanted to do. You know, I was hell bent on being up on that stage somehow, and I played as long as I was up on the stage, because seeing a rock star up on that stage and how people reacted to the music that they were playing and to their showmanship, and you know, I mean, it just knocked me out. It still does when I go to see a concert. My jaw drops a lot of the time, you know, because I'm still the biggest fan. I love music so much, and I am enamored with all artists. I can't believe that I've had the life that I've had, because I'm just still at heart, I'm still just this kid from Dundalk, you know. It's just been magnificent.
Well, you became friendly with Edith Massey, who starred in many of the John Waters films. She was much older than you, so how did that friendship come about?
Well, Edie lived when I was 20. I moved out of my house, and I moved to this really cool area of Baltimore called Fells Point, and she had her little thrift store. It was called Edith's shopping bag, and she would sit at the front of the store. As you walked in, there was a cash register. She'd sit right behind the cash register with her cat Lovey on the tabletop there, right next to the cash register, guarding the money. And she'd just sit there all day. People walk in and out, and she had that really very distinct, "Oh, hello, how you doing?" Oh, and so I would go in to see her because I loved her. She was the sweetest lady, and she was so weird and cracked and wonderful. And and one day I went in there, and she said, "Oh, Gina, I'm putting together a punk rock band, and we're going to go to New York and Los Angeles and San Francisco. Do you want to get in the band?" I was like, "Yes, of course," because I thought, hey, here's my out. Now I can. This is a way to really to somehow get my feet into the music scene, you know, in New York, LA, and San Francisco. Because at that point, I'd never even been on a plane, so you know, I was really excited at the prospect of getting on a plane and flying to LA and San Francisco and playing in front of those people. I thought, I'll make my connections, you know. So yeah.
What's the conversation with your parents? Like, you know, I want to go away with this woman to do to this band.
Well, I'm sure they were very nervous about all that, but you know what? God bless them. They had a lot of faith in me, I think, you know, to allow me to do what I've done. How scary for parents. Like, I'm the baby.
Right.
So baby leaving. But they allowed me to follow my dreams, follow my heart, follow what made me want to get up every day. And that was music.
Hmm. So you played at Max's Kansas City, which is one of the hottest places to be for music in the 70s. What was that whole scene like?
Oh, well, it was exactly as you think it would be. It was like the punk scene was happening big time. And everybody was hanging out there. And like every night, Max's or CBGB's, they were all packed every night. Because every night of the week there was a cool band playing, you know. You know, the Dead Boys or Blondie or you name it. They're Richard Hell. You know, it was a magical time for music, you know, because it felt like anything was possible, and it was just a bunch of kids getting together, picking up instruments and deciding that they are going to play this instrument. They're going to put a band together with their friends, and that's how the whole punk scene really blossomed, you know. Just a bunch of kids getting together, whether they were because of fashion or photography or whatever it may have been. They all stuck together. And like I said, I don't know if I said it in the book, but the thing that I loved about LA was I noticed very quickly that the punk scene in LA was very inclusive, you know. Like everybody was invited all the time. Nobody had an attitude about it. New York was a little different. That was how they had a little bit more attitude in New York, which we would expect.
Go figure.
Yeah.
And San Francisco was wide open too, I have to say. It was just wide open. But so many bands were playing, and it was just a thriving, wonderful music scene.
Well, you wrote about that experience with Edie made you want to go out on your own to California. I mean, you said your parents were supportive, but how were you feeling? With the nerves all through you? Just
no. Oh no! I was going to be a rock star. I really believe. I absolutely believe that. Because everything I was doing up until even to the moment that I got in my dad's pickup truck and headed to the West Coast was all about the moment that I would find a band and that would be my home, and that would be my life, because I'd played in different bands, but I hadn't found the right band, and I knew it. And when I first saw the Go-Gos play, they had been together about 6 months, and when I saw them play, I thought, this is the band I want to be in. They got something. I don't really know what it is. I can't really put my finger on it, but I'll tell you one thing, they're having a great time, and I want to do that because I've said this many times, I was way too serious about music. Well, I guess so, because it was like my life. It was like I came out there for a real particular purpose, a real reason. And it wasn't to make friends. I was coming from a real musician's, standpoint. I wanted to just get in a band.
What do you remember the first time seeing the Go-Gos? I mean, what do you think of the band itself?
Oh, the band, they were horrible, but they were great. Beautiful. It's the same thing. It's that same sort of mindset, they were dressed very colorfully and heavy makeup and we were all kids, so it's kind of funny trying to look really tough, but you're just a bunch of girls hanging out and totally vulnerable, but trying to look as tough as possible. And having a great time with the audience, pulling people up on stage, letting them dance, letting them sing. It was just a free for all, and it was like, hey, this is a part I'm missing. This is the part I'm loving this. And there's something about this band. I don't know what it is. Like I say, I couldn't put my finger on it, but it wasn't something tangible. It was, I don't know, just something that I felt that I gravitated towards, And you know what? The funny thing is, it wasn't even about being an all-girl band, because I had been in different bands, usually with all guys. It was really about, it was something more. I don't know. Like I said, I don't know what it was, but something spoke to me about the band.
Well, now, obviously they already had a drummer. So were you surprised they started feeling you out to join?
No, the first time I met them, they said, well, we're looking for a drummer.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think that the girl that was playing with them at the time was, or what I remember from that is that she wasn't really into it that much. It was just, I mean, they rehearsed like twice a month, so I don't know what was so tough about that, but I think she was into other things, or she wasn't into playing as much as they were, or wasn't into the scene, something, I don't know. But I jumped into the scene the minute I got out there, and I met the girls, 3 of the girls at a party, and invited them over to the house where I was staying, and we played a couple songs, and that was it. We all looked at each other and we were like, yeah, this is right. And they were knocked out because I could actually play, and because I was having the time of my life.
Well, speaking of that, I mean, watching the Go-Gos documentary, which is a fascinating documentary, the rest of the band is very complimentary of you. They seem to give you a lot of credit for making a change within the band and stoking that change, like something clicked for them. So were you really the one that pushed them to go to that next level?
I would like to think so, because I feel like, well, I know when I came out there, like I said, I was on a mission. The girls were just having fun with their friends, and being a part of the scene and going to watch different bands play every night. Back then you could go see 2 or 3 bands in a night, And so I sort of brought a work ethic in that wasn't there before I joined. I was saying to the guys, come on, we need to none of this rehearsing, once every couple of weeks. We need to rehearse 5 days a week. When you get done working all day, then we go and rehearse, because that's what I was used to. And it made me a better musician. Practice, practice, practice made me much better. And I knew that if everybody would commit themselves in the way that I was, or at least half as much as I did, something good was going to happen. Everybody just needed to be pushed.
Sure.
And I think that us, me joining the band and playing with the girls, they saw something different that they didn't have that element in the band before I joined. And they appreciated it. They just went with it. And
yeah, like I said,
I just pushed. No, Charlotte, Jane, write more songs. Rehearse 5 days a week. So it put everything, it put the high octane in the gas tank.
well, speaking of Charlotte, I mean, you've both been playing like punk. So she comes to the group with We Got the Beat, which was really a departure from what you had been playing. So what was everyone's thoughts initially? Was everyone like very receptive, or like did it take some talking into?
Well, We Got the Beat was like so fast. When she brought that to me, I started playing. I came up with that drum part. And back then, every single song that we played was at breakneck speed.
Mm-hmm.
First thing we did when we got in the studio with Richard Goddard, he said, you need to slow everything down so I can hear what Belinda's singing, so that I can appreciate the melodies in each song. Because I think like the first gig we played at the Hong Kong Gardens in downtown LA, the set was supposed to be 40 minutes or something, and it was done in 20 minutes, half the time. I mean, that's how fast I was playing. I was actually partly nervous, but also we played things really fast. It was punk. So you played fast. Just think of Ramones,
Well, one of your first big moments as a band was opening for the ska groups Madness and the Specials in Europe. How did all of that come about?
Oh, well, we were starting to get a pretty decent sized crowd to our shows. And so we could play, we could play San Francisco, LA, we could play New York. And we did gigs in all in those cities, and started to get a name, started to be kind of known. And then we got to be the house band at the Whiskey, which was a big deal, because so many huge bands started out that way. So that was a big crowning moment for us. And we were the house band. So anybody that came into town, whatever bands they were that came in, we'd open up for them. So when Madness came, we opened up for them. And when the Specials came, they went back. The Madness went back and told the guys in Specials, "Oh, you got to see this band. They're great. These girls." So the Specials came, we opened up for them. And then our management talked with their management, and we were offered opening spot for both bands on their tours in England. Mm. So we went over. Our manager, Ginger, everything, got us money, got us on a plane, rented a house in Hampstead Heath, and there we were with no money.
That changed for you. That changed everything for you when you got back. I mean,
yeah. Well, the fun is that we went over there to make it, because we thought, oh God, the English, the crowds over there, they'll get us, they'll get our music, and they didn't like us at all. We didn't go over there well at all. And while we were over there, we did a deal with Stiff Records and put out We Got the Beat, a 45. And while we're over there playing, We Got the Beat was getting played as an import in clubs over here, and so it was a big club hit. So we came back and we sold out everywhere we played, and it just got bigger and bigger from there.
Well, you had We Got the Beat, and then Jane comes along with Our Lips Are Sealed. So I was reading in your book around this time that it really cemented that change in direction. But your book says that there was a lot of friction about that, that not everyone was like really willing to go. Do you remember those conversations?
Not willing to what?
To go along with the new direction.
Oh, well, that was our bass player at the time. Margot was not happy with the way we were going. She wanted to stay more really punk. She wanted to keep it like Ramones style. And I think the rest of us were just following wherever the songs took us.
Mm-hmm.
Because a good song's a good song, and it's going to sound like the Go-Gos because we're playing it. So I think everyone was open except Margot, and she, and then she was out.
So, I mean, with all you had going on, you still had trouble getting signed to a label. How frustrating was that for all of you to see other bands getting signed and you couldn't?
Yeah, back then, being in an all-girl band was a detriment. Nobody would take a chance on 5 girls because there hadn't been prior to us, there had not been an all-girl band that had been really successful in a big way, and so they don't want to put out hundreds of thousands of dollars, perhaps $1 million, signing a band and putting them out on tour. So we had a really difficult time getting signed, but finally we had Miles Copeland's label. Miles came, a fellow named John Guarneri, who worked at the label, was following us and had watched us progress, and he got Miles, the head of the label, to come down and see us play. And Miles signed us. And we got $60,000 to make that first record. And Miles was, what a smart businessman. Got Richard Goddard to come in and produce because he knew Richard was a song man. And so Richard was brought in to work on the songs with us and, produced the first 2 albums, actually, and did a fantastic job. We hated what he had done at first because it sounded really pop and polished, and we weren't like that live. We're still not like that live. But he polished it up, and I, like, for the first 6 months we hated his guts and thought he ruined our band. And then, of course, when it was #1, we loved him and couldn't wait to work with him.
Well, yeah, because Beauty and the Beat came out, and it's still listed as one of the greatest albums of all time. I remember being in middle school when that came out, and it was everywhere. Everyone was playing it. It just exploded. So did you have any inkling that it would succeed the way it did? And how did your lives change afterwards?
Well, our lives changed dramatically because within a year's time, we were, had a #1 record. We were touring, we toured with the Police, and we went from touring in clubs to opening for the Police in 20 Cedars. And then when we got back to LA, we took a couple of weeks off and we went right back out on tour and headlined all the like Madison Square Garden, all the places that all the venues we had opened for the Police. We went back and headlined all those venues. And of course, we got money for the first time, real money. We almost had to sue Miles to get the money, though. He didn't want to let go of that money. We were playing somewhere on the West Coast. I feel like we were at a college or somewhere playing, and we came off stage and Miles was there. Meanwhile, our lawyers had been talking to his lawyers, and we had on our gloves. We were ready to fight, and we saw Miles standing backstage. We were kind of thinking like, oh, fuck him. We're not even going to talk to him. We're going to ignore him. And of course he said, well, girls, I brought something for you and I hope you like it. And he pulled out it was like a check this big, and it said Go-Gos $1 million. So we all like $1 million. Jesus Christ. I've never seen anything like that in my life. So that everything changed. When the money came, things changed very dramatically. And we were having the time of our lives. We were running around with who's who in Hollywood and staying up all night and partying with people, that you had only dreamed of ever meeting, opening stones. I mean, it was just, what a ride.
Well, let's talk about the next album, Vacation, which came out not too long after the debut of MTV. So how much fun was it to make that video and have it played so heavily on TV?
Well,
MTV, sorry.
making a video is really a pain in the ass. It wasn't fun.
Ah,
Videos. Being stuck, in a soundstage for like 12 hours with cameras all over you and the lights, and it's not fun. It sucks. Doing videos and photo shoots are the worst, you guys, because it's like, hurry up, wait. Oh, make sure everything in your makeup is absolutely perfect. And, make sure you look good. Sit this way, look that way. I hate that part of it. I just love being up on stage playing and making records. The video was really great. We did that on the Chaplin soundstage. Excuse me, in LA, on La Brea, was with Charlie Chaplin's studios.
Right.
yeah.
Where A&M became A&M Records. That was Charlie Chaplin's studio. That was his whole compound there.
Oh.
So they still have this soundstage there, but it's Jim Henson now. Anyway, so yes, we shot there all day, and we got really loaded. And so we wound up having fun, but we were dead ass tired when we got done from the shoot. And thank God for MTV, because MTV really helped break us. And Miles putting us on tour with the Police. Smart move, man. Real smart move.
So you did definitely notice a difference, but it being MTV with sales, the correlation with sales.
Oh my. And you know what, guys, doing Saturday Night Live, because back then when you played Saturday Night Live, you had arrived. I mean, I remember it was sort of like when I was a kid waiting for the Ed Sullivan Show on Sundays to see who the musical guest would be, right? That's sort of like what TV was in the 80s. I would watch, Saturday Night Live. I would watch Saturday Night Live waiting to see who was going to be the musical guest. It was always somebody really cool. And it was an up-and-coming band that was ready to explode. And we did that show, and then like a week or two later, we topped $1 million in sales.
Well.
Good grief.
All worked together. It was perfect timing for things. And you don't know how that works. It just does.
Yeah. And so, your career's sky high at the time. And then you noticed something wrong medically. You had a heart condition. How did you first notice this, and what was going through your mind at the time?
Well, we were getting ready to go out on tour. This was to do we had just finished our third album, Talk Show, and we were getting ready for a long tour. And we had to get physicals. We all do when you go out on a long tour. They make you get physicals, because so many people, you're employing so many people, so many jobs are on the line, and lots of money. So we got physicals, and mine came back is that you have a heart murmur. No big deal. Lots of people have heart murmurs. It doesn't mean anything. But my doctor at the time was, let me just take it one step further. I'm going to put this monitor on your chest. You're going to wear it for like a week, and we're going to monitor your heartbeats and make sure everything's cool. And I was at rehearsal at SIR with the band, and I got a call from my doctor, and he said, she said, the nurse said, you need to come in. We want to talk to you about what's going on. And I almost fell over because I knew it was going to be something really scary. And I went in and told the girls, and we just stopped rehearsing and all got in the car. We all drove to Cedars, and he told me that I had a hole in my heart. It was big. It was like the size of a golf ball, because it was congenital. So I'd had it there since birth, and it was just getting bigger and bigger. And if I hadn't have found that, and I kept getting sick, you guys, I kept getting like weird ailments. And I was like working out and doing all the stuff and doing drugs, but like everybody else, you're 21 or 22, you can do it all back then and still work out the next morning. So yeah, it got a hole in your heart. You're going to need to have surgery. I'm freaking out. Everybody's screaming, crying. And yeah, I thank God I found it, because he said in like 3 years later, it would have been irreparable, and I would have just had a massive heart attack at the age of 31. That would have been, we found that issue. And yeah, I was getting short of breath as well too. I remember having to have like oxygen sometimes after shows and stuff. Yeah. Yeah. that was everybody. We all freaked out. It seemed like we were stuck in a bad movie. You know, it was, how could this is something that happens to other people, not you. I know that's an old cliche. It is true. It's something that doesn't happen to you, but it did. So then, hence the Palm Springs weekend, the crazy Palm Springs weekend, where we rented a white Jag and a white Eldorado and drove to Palm Springs with lots of drugs and booze and had a, because we figured we're gonna have one big old party in case I don't make it through the operation. I'm gonna, at least have a big party with the people I love, with my family, my bandmates, and so that's what we did.
Well, after talk show your next album, I remember as a kid being shocked when I heard the Go-Gos were breaking up, and then Jane was the first to leave. I mean, could you see that coming? Were you surprised at all, or do you feel like?
Let me add one thing to that. Back then, you guys, it's funny, but it was the 80s, and everyone I know, we all normalized taking drugs.
Mm-hmm.
It was just, oh yeah, you want to do some blow? Yeah, of course I do. Everybody just thought it was, we normalized it. It was crazy. But anyway, just to give you, that was our mindset back in the 80s.
I think every rock memoir that I've read involved that. So just about every single one. Yeah. So.
Part of what happens, what was especially in the 80s, the decade of excess,
right,
it
yes.
truly was.
Sure.
So back to the band breaking up. Jane left because she wanted her solo career, which I write in the book, which was stupid to leave for that, because you could still have your solo career and be in a band. But so many poor decisions were made back then, you guys, because everybody had a lot of money and a lot of drugs and were making really stupid moves. From my perspective, okay? So Jane left for her solo career, and then we brought in Paula Jean Brown to play bass. Kathy moved over to guitar, and we did the Rock in Rio show, came back, started working on the 4th album. We were writing. We had actually brought in a couple producers, and then one day I got a call to go to our management's office. We were with Irving Azoff at the time, and Charlotte and Belinda, quit. And Kathy and I were dumbfounded. We didn't know what the hell was going on. But they were, the band's over, we quit.
So then Belinda Carlisle's single, Mad About You, was originally supposed to be a Go-Go song?
Yeah, that was slotted to be our first single on the next record.
That must have hit. So.
Hey, guys, something. You think about, being in your family.
Sure.
And your family, and how many times things have happened where you want to fucking kill them.
Yeah,
you want to
absolutely.
Family, because nobody can hurt you like a family member. Nobody can love a member. You know what I mean? It's
very true.
It's deep, but at the same time, you make up, and it's like, just let it go.
Sure. No, I agree. So you went and formed House of Shock. So what was it like for you now to be the lead singer in your own group? Was there a lot of satisfaction in that too?
Well, first of all, guys, I didn't know what I was going to do, because I knew I was not going to be a session player. I'm not that kind of player. I like being in a band. I like being a part of something. And so I tried to put a band together and found different people, brought them in. I found Vance, who was my partner, my songwriting partner mainly. And we found all these different people. We brought him into the band. And initially I didn't want to sing. I actually flew people in to try out to be the vocalist for House of Shock, because I really didn't, I just wanted to play drums and write songs. But as it turns out, when we had the band together, they were like, Gina, you sing these songs better than anybody we've brought in. You should be the singer. So then I did. I would sing. I became the singer.
But you're launching House of Shock again now, right? Is that what I hear?
Yeah. Band back together. I mean, not the same members, but it's my band, so I'm going to call it House of Shock. Trying to think of what name to call the band now, and well, it should just be House of Shock, right? I guess makes sense. But yeah, I've found some incredible players back in Baltimore, and put a band together, and they're great. And we've only done 2 shows, but they were pretty goddamn good. We did one at the Stone, Jersey, and one at the House Baltimore, and we're lining up shows now. Not sure where it's all going to go, but I'm just testing the waters, because I feel like this is what I need to be doing in conjunction with my book signings,
Right.
And with my gallery shows of my photography. You know, I got a lot to do, and surprise yourself at what you're capable of. When you sort of are just thrown to the wolves and you don't know what the hell you're going to do, you find the strength to go after the things that you only dreamed of doing. Once again, you know, I love photography. I've taken so many photos. God damn it, I'm going to make a book of my photography. I'm going to put all those photos that I've been carrying around for 30 years and put them in a book. And do you want to write in the book? No, I don't want to write. I'm not a writer. Well, why don't you try it? It worked out. It came out beautifully. I'm so proud of that book. I love the photos. I love the text. It worked out great, you know. And when I just put this band back together and I started singing again, I was like, I can do this. I forgot I can do this. Wait, it comes everything, and I can write. You surprise yourself, you know. You forget all the things that you're capable of, and then when you're sort of tested, and you do it, and I do it well. God damn it, I'm gonna just keep playing.
Well, obviously.
You think will there be an accompanying album at some point, do you think?
Well, we're right now talking about recording some stuff. We got to record some stuff to put it out though, so people can hear like what we sound, so we can put it or whatever the hell you do now nowadays. But we've got to get some stuff, some material out there. I mean, right now in the set we do I think 12 songs is what we have right now, or 12 or 13, and I do like 4 or 5 Go-Gos, and the other ones are mine. Or, you know, one Schock, one's a Miley Cyrus, one's Selena Gomez, for people that I wrote for. And also I have a catalog of, I have hundreds and hundreds of songs. So I'm going to get that out there, man. I got a lot of songs.
That's awesome.
Well,
Right.
speaking of your catalog, how much fun was it to see it made into the Broadway musical Head Over Heels?
Yeah, that was such a long shot, but you know what, guys? Everything in my life has been a long shot. You just got to have faith. It's all, and you got to do the right stuff to put you in the right place at the right time. How's that happen? It's magic. I don't know, but yeah, when that took years to get it all together, as Broadway musicals do. But I got to tell you, I don't like musicals, honestly. But when I saw our musical on Broadway, it was good. I mean, entire time. And to hear those songs in that format was just crazy. You know, was it 17th century short story? It was crazy. It works. I don't know. Jeff Whitty's the guy that came up with the idea, so that was a brilliant idea, and it did work. Mm-hmm. And then Jim Magruder made it work, because it needed a lot. It needed to make it accessible to the general public, to more folks. Jim Magruder was brought in to make that happen with the dialogue, and he did a fantastic job. And of course, the way they put the music, Michael, who was the director? Michael, he's a major dude on the Broadway scene. Mm-hmm. Oh, I can't think of his name. That's so stupid. Whatever. Yeah, I'm so proud of that too. And it's all these different places, and it's really neat.
Well, the
book,
it works.
It
does, absolutely.
How does it happen? I don't know, but it does. It works.
The book, Made in Hollywood, All Access with the Go-Gos, is such a fascinating look behind everything. It really dives into everything. I had so much fun reading it. You discussed the good with the bad. What made you decide to start to write that?
It's a perfect coffee table book, because you can put it down and pick it up anywhere and start reading.
Yes.
And you get sucked into it. It's good.
And the pictures, you have so many great pictures. I mean, what made you decide to do it, to just finally, release that?
Well, girls had been prodding me for years to do it, for decades. Gina, because I'd bring a bag full of photos a lot of times on tour, and they'd be, oh my God, we'd get hysterical looking at these photos. And they were like, you should put a book together. You should. And easier said than done. The thought of it was overwhelming. I just couldn't get it. I had to find the right person to help me organize this. And I did. This Steve Proget helped me put the book together. He lives in LA, and he came up here, and I said, come on up and take a look at the photos I got. I had them all spread out in the living room floor. And he went nuts. He said, Gina, we got a book here. This is easy. This is going to be an easy one. And I was like, yeah, trying to figure out what photos to use. That's not so easy because every one of them meant something to me. So he helped me to put it together in a big way. So very grateful.
Well, when writing it, we've had other people who've written, memoirs, I guess. And had anything come back to you while writing it that you'd like, oh, I'd forgotten about that, or I hadn't thought about that in years?
Oh, things. I'll tell you what helped me a lot with that, with the book, was I keep a daily planner that I've had since 1978. I have my books. Oh. Okay, so I have every year piles and piles of daily planners. I have one right now. I write in every day. So when we were looking, I got out the books from like 78 up until now, and we just paged through that and found, I found a million things that I put in the book. It helped me with dates and places at whatever particular time or whatever month. It was, that helped me a lot. So and just going over it was really made me laugh. The things that my little comments about, which I couldn't put in the book, but they were hilarious.
Oh, I'd love to see that edition.
Oh, it's the stuff that I wrote about what we were doing on tour. Oh my God. Sex with you, and oh my God.
Wow. Well, the band has never really gone away for long, but in the last few years, there's been a kind of resurgence with the Showtime documentary and a way long overdue election into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. So how gratifying was that to be finally admitted?
Well, we had given up, guys, because every year it would be, we would think, oh, they were going to be nominated this year, and it never happened. So we had given up, and of course, when we gave up, it happened. But I think it was another little magical time because the musical was out. We had just done the documentary, and we were getting ready to do touring stuff. We had done shows and all. And so I think that it brought us back into the limelight a little bit, and folks we were on people's minds a bit more than normally. And so especially the folks that were at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, the powers that be there, finally took notice again. And so we were nominated, and I was like, oh my God, this is going to be so humiliating because we're not going to really get in. We won't get inducted, but we'll be nominated. And then we got inducted. It was like, what? I can't. And I'll tell you guys, that night is still almost like a big blur. I was on such an adrenaline high and a rush that I felt like I was going to pass out at any moment. I mean, I don't even remember playing drums when we got up and did our 3 songs. I don't remember doing that. It was so surreal, the whole thing. Because it was another like milestone in my life that the Go-Gos have allowed me to be a part of this big world that we're in, and so many gratifying moments, yeah, that was quite a thrill to be
sure.
inducted into it, even though people could they'll poo-poo it, but it's still kind of neat when it happens.
I think it's fantastic. I think it's incredible and incredibly well deserved.
And getting on Hollywood Boulevard was a really cool thing as well.
Sure, absolutely. There have been many thwarted attempts at a tour, and with many things happening. So, will there be more Go-Gos and possibly a new tour in the future?
Well, right now, I don't know what's going on. Belinda's doing her record. She's out and she's touring. Jane is married and she said she's retired. Charlotte said she's retired. Kathy's out playing. I'm out playing. Lynn's doing her record. So I have no idea what the hell's going to happen. But I will say this. There have been many times in our careers, in the Go-Go's career, that we have thought we're never going to play again. We're never get back together. And we always somehow get back together and play. I mean, all these years later, right? Can you believe that we're still together after all these years? Jesus, like a miracle. But you know, I hope that we get back together and do some shows because people want to see us.
Absolutely.
And I mean, after all these years, and we're fucking a great live band, you guys. Yeah. We're really kicking. And there's something that happens. Even Belinda will say it with the five of us that you can't get anywhere else with anybody else you play with. There's this chemistry that is really incredible, guys. Magical. Keep using that word because that's how it feels.
Well, I hope there's a tour, and I hope also it goes to South Florida. But what's
you know, in the meantime, until something happens, or which I hope it does, because I love the Go-Gos. I'm just going to be doing my, you know, my House of Shock thing and see where that goes.
Sure.
Keep signings and my gallery exhibitions of my photos, and working on. I can't really. Well, I'm working. You know, I don't know. We'll see. I'm working on a show right now, but I can't really talk about it. I'm working on writing another. Working on writing a book, and also a TV show.
Oh, fantastic!
And getting ready to start both. So we'll see. I just like staying busy, you guys. Like I can't work enough. I love it. I don't know why anybody wants to retire. That's crazy. Watch Jane in a year or two, she'll go, oh my God, I want to play. Or in 6 months. Same thing with Charlotte. But you know, everybody says different things, and but we'll see. I don't know.
I want, if you ever want to talk about this TV show, if it gets up, I wish you good luck. You're welcome back. We'd love to talk about it with you when that time comes.
So, and the book.
What's the book? Is it going to be a follow-up to the memoir?
They're very much a part of me. So, because anything, I mean, I'm easy to work with, because I don't mind putting the time into whatever it is that we're working on. And I'm pretty easy to get along with, so I get along with most folks. I think things are going to work out, but I keep my fingers crossed. You know, everything's a long shot, you guys, but you got to put it out there to even give yourself a chance. So,
well, we want to thank you again for coming here today. Been a big fan for a long time. You know, big fan of your music, and it was very nice of you to come in. Like I said, you're welcome back anytime. We'd love to have you.
You're great. Thank you so much. I had a nice time talking with you guys.
Well, thank you. Again, I'm Jonathan Rosen, along with Ike Eisenmann, and this has been Pop Culture Retro. And again, a very special thanks to Gina Schock, and please subscribe.
Thank you for listening to Pop Culture Retro, where no one was hurt during the making of this podcast.